Are you feeling like a zombie lately? Tired of the same old energy drinks promising the world but delivering the jitters and a crash? Look no further than Sneak Energy, your secret weapon for all your energy needs. With all natural ingredients, Sneak will give you all the energy you need to boost through your day without feeling like a lab rat on caffeine. Don't believe us? Try it yourself and see what a difference it can make to your routine. So what are you waiting for? Hit the link in the description and pick up your Sneak Starter Pack today. Now enjoy the clip. Interesting couple of stories this morning, one involving Ramos from Benfica and one involving Ferguson from Brighton, and another one involving Højlund, who is at Atalanta, this Danish striker they're calling the next Erling Haaland, and Fabrizio has given an update on him. So let's cover those three. And as I said last night, I think this can only be a positive for United, because when you've got the names of Victor Osimhen and Harry Kane, and then you're adding in another 3 or 4 strikers, then suddenly you've got 5 or 6 options, of which I don't think many of us would say, I don't want that player. In fact, Muani for me is the one I would probably be moving aside now, because I personally think that Ramos, Højlund, Ferguson, Kane and Osimhen are all better options than Muani, in my opinion. But, you know, some people might disagree with me on that. So let's go through the news here. So first story is Evan Ferguson is playing for the Republic of Ireland tonight against France, and Manchester United will have scouts there on the order of Erik ten Hag again. Obviously, he's been scouted already, but they're going to be scouting him again. 18 years of age. I've said it before. I've seen quite a bit of this lad. I might be completely wrong. It could be another Goldbridge hot take, but I've said, for me, he looks very complete. And what I mean by that is he looks like a striker that at 18 is only going to get bigger and better physically, but can score goals off both feet, good hold-up play, good link-up play, which you've got to have in a Brighton side, intelligent movement, fairly quick, fairly strong, not bad in the air, only 18. He reminds me of an Alan Shearer at Southampton, and most of you won't remember that. It's like what I said last night about Dennis Irwin. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember these players from the early Premier League eras. And before Alan Shearer was banging goals in for Blackburn Rovers and Newcastle, he was at Southampton as a very young striker, with a big promise. And I just, there's something about Ferguson that reminds me of a young Alan Shearer, and if he can have anything like that sort of career, he's going to be very, very special. I think Man United have got to take a good look at him. Somebody said in the chat he's going to cost 100 million. Straight away, let's not start talking about bargains here. Like, there is a massive amount of strikers that Man United could sign this summer, and they're all going to be expensive. There's no bargain here. So I don't wait. And to be honest, it's probably the one position I wouldn't be bothered about trying to find a bargain anyway, because what wins football games? Goals. Who scores most of the goals? Strikers. There are a number of strikers available this summer, and I wouldn't be too worried about the price. It's pronounced Evan. He's Irish, not Russian, says Sam. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate that super chat. Really adds a lot to the show. Thank you very much. But they're all going to cost a lot of money, whether it's Evan Ferguson, whether it's Højlund at Atalanta, whether it's Ramos at Benfica, whether it's Harry Kane at Spurs, whether it's Osimhen at Napoli. I would say every one of those strikers is going to be expensive for what they are. I don't think you'd pay £100 million for Ferguson. I think you'd pay around 50. I think Ramos, we'll talk about in a minute. Kane is going to be 100 million. Osimhen's going to be north of 100 million. Even Muani from Frankfurt's going to cost you 60, 70 million. And that Højlund at Atalanta, again, probably somewhere between 50. Oh, God, Monday morning. We lost an hour. 50 and 80 million. So they're all going to be expensive. There's no bargain there. I'm not really bothered about that. As I say, when you're buying a striker, it's about buying the right striker, and it's about buying a player that Ten Hag wants, that is going to score us a lot of goals. So I'm not, I think when you overpay, like we did with Anthony, you've got to scrutinise the recruitment and the director of football. But in this situation, and I agree with what Delicate Official says here, strikers are always expensive. Osimhen for me and an understudy as well. We need to fill the pipeline. We haven't replaced multiple strikers. And again, absolutely agree with you. Ricky was saying this last week. We need 2 strikers, and he's right. You know, we didn't replace Cavani, we didn't replace Ronaldo, and Martial might need to be replaced. That's 3 strikers that we've lost. So if Martial doesn't come back, then you can go for 2. But look, Weghorst is not a replacement for Ronaldo or Cavani. We do need 2 strikers, in my opinion, and I wouldn't mind 2 from any of those 5. But look, Man United need to get out of this routine of we can't go for Ferguson because it'll be too expensive. And I feel we've done that a few times over the last few years where we've gone, we can't go and get that player because they'll be too expensive. And somebody's going to get him. His career will not be Brighton for the next 10 years. Somebody is going to go and get Ferguson. And there's many reasons why I would like it to be Manchester United. Ultimately, they're the sort of signings we've got to start making if we want to become what we were under Sir Alex. If we want to become serious, we've got to start buying the best players. I think for too long we've not bought the best players. If you are Man City or Real Madrid or PSG or whoever, and your aim is to buy the best, even that's not a guarantee for success, but at least you're buying the best. You're going to find it very difficult to become the best if you're buying 3rd, 4th, 5th best players in positions. The biggest example is Casemiro. He is one of the best, if not the best, centre defensive midfielders in the world. Manchester United have bought him, and when he's on the pitch, we're a way better team than when he's not on the pitch. It's a prime example of what Man United need to do. We need to start and consistently buy the best players that are available. And it's no coincidence that you will then become a very good side. And we've seen it with Casemiro. So we can't expect to close the gap on those in front of us by letting them buy the best players and we buy the 2nd or 3rd best players. So back onto the striker situation. We're going to be scouting Ferguson. The honest answer is we've been scouting Ferguson already. I've said this many times. There's not many players that Man United won't have scouted. Now, another player that United are looking at is Ramos of Benfica. Had a very impactful World Cup, but he's had a very, very impactful time at Benfica, not dissimilarly to that of Darwin Núñez. He's another striker that Benfica have produced that is massively exciting. Now, they've called him the new Ronaldo, this, that and the other. I mean, he's not the new Ronaldo. Nobody's the new Ronaldo. Nobody's the new Messi at the moment. There isn't a player that's anywhere near the level of those players. And again, age helps me with this, but I remember Ronaldo and Messi as young players in their early 20s, and they were on a different planet. There is no player in world football at the moment that is coming through anywhere near those players. I'll let you know when I see one, but there isn't. There just isn't. And I'm as intrigued as anybody else, especially in relation to the Messi type player. I've seen Maradona in my lifetime, and I've seen Messi in my lifetime. We might not see a player like Messi or Maradona for another 30 years, maybe 50 years. But I'm hoping we'll see one in the next few years because, you're blessed when you live in a time with players like that. But there is no player coming through like that, and I think Ramos is not the next Cristiano Ronaldo. Ramos is a very interesting striker. He's a very expensive striker. Now, the reason he's been mentioned is that Portuguese outlets are saying that Man United are interested in him, and Ramos is becoming a little bit disinterested at Benfica because they offered him, or they were meant to be offering him, excuse me, a lot of yawns this morning. I'll tell you why in a minute. He was expecting a new contract because of how well he's been doing, and it's not been delivered by Benfica yet. So he's a little bit unsettled, and there's a lot of clubs looking into him, and Man United being one of those. Benfica are not an easy club to deal with. Even going back to the João Felix days, they got very good money for him. They got very good money for Enzo Fernandez. They got very good money for Darwin Núñez. So they're not naive in Benfica. And Ramos does have a release clause, which is around £100 million. So Ramos is certainly a player Manchester United are looking at, but I think that the one time when the price really does start to come into it is when you compare all the options. And I don't have the fees on this, but if you've got Ramos who's available for 100 million, you've got Harry Kane who's available for 100 million, that's an interesting debate. Do you want Ramos who's 21 from the Portuguese league for 100 million, or do you want Harry Kane who's 30 from the Premier League? Now, in the short term, Harry Kane's probably going to be the safer bet. But in the long term, if Ramos works, he will be the better bet. So You know, the price comes into play when you know how much everybody wants. And I think what United have got to do here is have their list of what Ten Hag wants, and maybe his number one target's Osman, and maybe his second target's Højlund, maybe his third target's Kane. And then you've got to look at the price. First of all, they've got to go and get him the player that he wants. If he wants Osman, you've got to go and get him. But I do think that there are conversations to be had within the club about, you know, the price and the type of player they're going to get. For me, I think it gets interesting if Ten Hag wanted a Højlund and a Ramos, and Højlund is 30-40 million pound cheaper. You've got to go for the player from